much. Let's now talk with a member of the House Task Force investigating the assassination attempts, Congressman Glen Ivey, Democrat from Maryland. Congressman, thanks for hopping on with me. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
So the main question, I think, from everyone now in the wake of this report is, do we have a better equipped Secret Service? And do we have a safer President Trump here in 40 days? How do you answer that?
Well, I think the answer is yes, but that doesn't mean the job is completely done. I think the Secret Service has made big strides in improvement. Part of that, I think, was attitude, frankly. There is one chairman, Green, stated during the hearing, just seemed to be a lackadaisical attitude. There were some basic things that just weren't done that day where you'd think that just a new person on the job would have thought to do it, like making sure you had the roof covered where the shots were fired from. But I think they've also made strides, too, with respect to improving their communications. There was a breakdown here with local police and law enforcement being unable to communicate with federal law enforcement, the Secret Service, directly. That caused a problem with respect to the need for a real-time reaction to the spotting of the shooter. And there were other issues, too, like making sure there was just basic coordination between local law enforcement and the Secret Service. But I think there have been improvements on that front, but we've still got work to do.
Yeah, I know this report notes the Butler shooting was preventable, but it was not just one failure, to your point, but many that caused this. Your task force is recommending, among other things, that the Secret Service reduce the number of individuals that they protect, including fewer foreign leaders, and refocusing on its primary duty to protect the president and other critical U.S. leaders. Is the solution really as simple as reducing the number of individuals that the Secret Service protects?
Well, I think we worded that in a way that suggested that they consider taking a look at how to do that. And that potentially could help. I think the focus there in particular was in every September, you have foreign dignitaries come in for the United Nations annual meeting. And at that point, you have to cover dozens of more, foreign leaders of countries around the world. But that's one thing to consider. I think one of the other factors to look at would be how to expand. For example, Homeland Security has support that can be provided. Can that be expanded? I think we're going to need to increase the number of Secret Service agents as well. And there's going to continue to be a reliance on local law enforcement, too. But I think in the wake of, we just saw the shooting of the CEO last week. And there was, before that, there were threats against, I think, a dozen members of Congress that were not all connected, but still happened around the same time. We might need to expand the type of protection that's provided rather than reduce it. I think we'll have to see how it goes, in the next few months.
The other thing I found interesting is that your task force concluded that the Butler shooter, Thomas Crooks, his motives remain largely unknown. Do you think that's always going to be a mystery, or will we ever know what kind of motive he was working with that day?
I'm not sure. I think you heard several members on the task force raise the concern at the hearing that we didn't get all the documents from the Department of Justice that we would have liked to have seen. There were interviews, for example, with Crooks' parents and other documents, I think from like his Facebook and those kinds of things, his social media, that might have helped to shed some light on that. I think that information is going to come out in relatively short order, I would think, in the next Congress. The task force expires on Friday, but you'll have other committees like the House Homeland Security Committee that are going to continue to take a look at this. And I think that information will come out. But even when that comes out, I don't know that we'll ever really be able to, yeah. I mean, he was clearly disturbed, and sometimes there's no good answer to what motivates these guys when they do these things. But we're going to try and get to the bottom of it one way or the other.
Yeah, and he's no longer around to answer for himself and answer those questions. Congressman Glen Ivey, I know that was a lot of bipartisan work y'all put in on this. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it, sir. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.